Okay, ladies and gentlemen, you see it. The article reads Deputy shoots, kills man during arrest attempt from the News Argus, December the 12th, 1999. If you can see in the article, the deputy that shot and killed the man nearly 25 years ago is the now federally indicted Deputy Mike Cox. And this is an archived newspaper article that I received from the Wayne County Public Library. Now I'm going to read this article to you, and I'm going to also give you some in-depth analysis of the article, because knowing what we know now of Mike Cox, this shooting or this killing of this man must be brought back into question. Furthermore, why is nobody talking about this shooting in relation to what he has done since then? Because we know he has been violent. He set up a violent home robbery. He got one of the drug dealers that was his friend to threaten his his daughter's boyfriend. So all of these things baffled me when I found out about 25 years earlier when he killed this young man. And I'm going to read this article, but I think that this should be something that's also listed in the investigation. Right now, how did I come about this information? Now I'm talking to I received a phone call from a federal inmate last night. And this inmate was giving me some details about his case. And he said, yeah, I've been going back with the sheriff department since they killed my best friend. Since Mike Cox killed my best friend. That's what he said. And I said, Mike Cox killed your best friend? He said, yeah, look it up. You know, my best friend name was Shane Jones. And I'm like, nah. So I scoured the internet, right? I scoured the internet. There is nothing that you can find on this occurrence. Mike Cox killing Shane Jones. So, of course, I did some investigating, and I found out, the date that it happened, and also the man's full name. And I also went down to the Wayne County Public Library and retrieved this article. You see it as a News Argus article that details the happenings of this incident, but it's very, very short and contrite as well. Sort of like the non-mentioning of it today, which I feel that this should be very much included or at least alluded to in all of the indictment, court proceedings, bail hearings that pertain to Mike Cox. But I'm going to read this article to you. And this article is by Stan Alian. If anybody remembers him, he was a News Argus staff writer. But the article reads, a Wayne County Sheriff's deputy shot and killed a Pikeville man early Saturday morning after an attempted arrest turned violent. Now we're going to stop right there, because once again, all of these happenings or the details are only given by Mike Cox, because as you will see further on in the article, nobody was there except Mike Cox and the deceased. And of course, the deceased is not there to tell his story. I'm going to continue reading. Deputy Sheriff Mike Cox said is in infinite, because once again, we know from this guy's history that whatever he say can't be trusted. But this reads, Deputy Sheriff Mike Cox said he was attacked by William Shane Jones of Mount Carmel Church Road shortly before 12:30 a.m. in a vacant lot near the intersection of Stony Creek and Patetown Roads, northwest of Goldsboro. Now this is 12:30 a.m., pretty much midnight in the dark of the night, where only Mr. Jones and Mike Cox is present. The article reads, Jones, who was 25 at the time, was shot while trying to assault the deputy, according to a press release written by Jerry Best, Captain of Investigations. Once again, according is a word that we have to scrutinize, because this is according to Captain Jerry Best, who was not also there, and his information was given by the much maligned, the now federally indicted Mike Cox. The article continues to read, he was pronounced dead upon arrival at the emergency room at Wayne Memorial Hospital. Said Cox was treated at the hospital for severe bruises to the face. He has been released. Severe bruises to his face. Not a broken ribs, not a fractured jawbone, not a broken hand, not a broken leg. Severe bruises to his face. So, he was attacked, allegedly, according to the now federally indicted Mike Cox. The article continues to read, detectives refused to give specific details about the incident, of course, but indicated that Cox, now, this is typical of news argus, because now they start referring to Cox as Mr. Jones. So I'm going to replace Cox with Jones anytime they make that mistake, because now it is seen that now Cox was the man or the criminal being stopped by the police, which Cox is a criminal. But never mind. We're going to stick to the script. But detectives refused to give specific details about the incident, but indicated that Jones was stopped under the suspicion that he was driving while impaired. Deputies would not say if alcohol was found at the scene of the attempted arrest, or if Jones, and this time it says if Cox had, probably Cox did have alcohol on his breath, but I replaced Cox with Jones, or if Jones had alcohol on his breath. Now, why wouldn't you say that? If this man has been deceased, first you won't give specific incidents information, because once again, there are no details except what Mike Cox tells you. He said, hey, this guy was beating me up, evidently hit me in my face, and I had to shoot him. That is not grounds for shooting a person, if you ask me. If you fighting a deputy, more than likely the deputy jumped on him, because anybody who's ever ran from the police knows that is typical police protocol when they catch you to beat you. Now, you would be well within your human and legal rights to defend yourself, because the officer is not supposed to assault you if you flee from him. He's only supposed to subdue you and arrest you, not beat you until he gets tired. But I myself have been a victim of that tactic, as well as many other people I know. So, the article continues to read, after Cox stopped Jones's vehicle, it said Jones jumped out of the car and fled on foot. Like I said, he ran from him. A short chase ensued, followed by the altercation, the press release said. Now, once again, the press release is the cover-up, because once again, the press release doesn't know what happened. The only thing the press release knows is what Mike Cox gave them. Detectives would not say if Jones, and the article still saying Cox, we know Cox was armed. So detectives would not say if Jones was armed. Once again, in these police shootings, the first thing they're going to say is he was armed. So we have to conclude that in this instance, Mr. Jones was not armed. Now we're going to go on. Once it's a 2-page article. This is the other thing I printed out from the microfilm. It says sources at the sheriff's department said Cox. Excuse me. And once again, they're using Cox as Jones. Once again, they're going to vilify the victim here. Sources at the sheriff's department said Jones has an extensive criminal record and had served some jail time. They also said Jones had some outstanding warrants for his arrest. What does that have to do with this death in this situation? Once again, we see, as they do it in many police shootings, they're vilifying, they're demonizing the victim. None of this has any relevance to the situation, but they want to paint the picture in the public's eye that this man was a criminal. So, of course, the police had to defend themselves against this guy with an extensive criminal record and had served some jail time. If you have an extensive criminal record, you don't serve jail time, you serve prison time. But this is how, once again, the media is complicit in covering up these things. Now, once again, Captain Best said in the release that it appears, once again, there are those words. It appears that the deputy's actions were justified. How does it appear? Just by Mike Cox's word, and we all know today that Mike Cox's word is worth a hill of beans, as one of my second grade teachers said. I think her name was Miss Pittman or Miss Richardson. Shout out to those people as well. They taught me well. Of course, I can read. But the investigation has been turned over to the State Bureau of Investigation, he said. Now, evidently, there was never any findings to contradict Mike Cox's story, because once again, he was allowed to remain on the force and he was promoted shortly after this incident, I may add. Now, in an interview Saturday night, Sheriff Carrie Wanders, God bless the dead, described Cox as a very good officer who was forced to use his weapon in self-defense. Here it is again. How do you know that, Sheriff? Or how did you know that, Sheriff Wanders? Off of the testimony of the only living witness of the incident, Mike Cox, who was forced to use his weapon in self-defense. If you only have bruises on your face, that is not a forced hand for you to kill someone. You know, bruises on the face meaning you can't fight. You're not guarding yourself, you know. Now, if you said you had punctured ribs and the guy had a knife and, you know, he had you pinned down and he was stomping you on your head, then yes. But bruises on your face is not an indication of a life or death situation. And then Wanders also goes on to say, law enforcement officers have a dangerous job, especially when your backup is several miles away, Wanders said. Once again, this confirms that it was only he, Mike Cox, and Mr. Jones at that scene. So whatever Mike Cox says goes now, because of course Mr. Jones is dead. But once again, we have to revert back to what is going on now and question anything that Mike Cox said. I think, you know, this incident should be reopened and investigated. Sheriff Reinders says he remembers a time when he had a suspect who struck him several times, pinned him to the ground, and threatened him with a box cutter. Winder said he was just about to pull out his gun when other officers rushed to his aid. Once again, playing on the public's sympathy. Playing on this incident, once again, it had nothing to do with Mike Cox's incident, but now he's trying to garner public sympathy, garner public empathy of Mike Cox in this situation, when this situation is not. Mike Cox mentioned nothing about a box cutter, being mentioned nothing about pinned to the ground, and mentioned nothing about, fearing for his life. He just said he was assaulted. And just like the lady at the store the other day, people were saying, well, she was just assaulted. She didn't have to pull out her gun. But, some people feel that she does. But once again, this deputy feel like he was assaulted, so he had to pull out his gun. Now, Wanders continues on. This deputy had no backup at that point in time. When your life is in danger, you have to use deadly force, he said. Once again, God bless the dead. But once again, Kerry Wanders is justifying this incident, but he wasn't there. He don't know if Mike Cox's life was in danger. Or was Mike Cox then the same rogue Mike Cox now doing things, killing this man because he know that he could get away with it? That's a question that we have to ask ourselves, considering all of the information that we have from Mike Cox from 2017 until now, and even before then, because these things just don't happen overnight. Cox just don't become rogue overnight, and probably it was this incident that gave him the unction, gave him the gall to start doing some of the things he did, because when he killed this man, evidently in cold blood, murder, he was done nothing but praised. As we see, Cox has been a deputy at the sheriff department for about 3 years. This is his first full-time position in law enforcement. Winders placed the deputy on paid leave. Once again, he's rewarded. He gets to sit down and play video games or go hunting with his friends after killing a man. In cold blood, might I add. To recover physically and mentally from the ordeal. Anytime a person experiences a thing such as this, is going to affect you mentally. I just wanted him to have to gather his mental capacity. Now, this is just a short, not even a 2-page article. Once again, this is the full. I mean, this is not the full, but this is a brighter copy of it. But nevertheless, we see here 25 years ago, the now federally indicted cop Mike Cox allegedly killed William Shane Jones in cold blood. Now, I'm going to do some more research into this matter. Order some reports, check out the death certificate, things of that nature, because according to his best friend, who I talked to, they said Mr. Jones was laying in a ditch and he had been shot in the back. Now, I don't know about you, but I know if you're able to shoot somebody in the back, your life is not in danger. I'm sorry. Could it have been that Mike Cox couldn't catch him and he just fired off? And then started to hit himself in the face. Like, these are questions we have to ask concerning this man's not even alleged actions. This man's indicted actions. He's been indicted on crimes, stemming from violence to drug abuse and drug possession. So I just want to put this out there because I feel that this should definitely be revisited. And if not revisited, it should definitely be a part of the conversation. Nobody has mentioned this. Why has not, we have to ask ourselves, why hasn't nobody mentioned this? This incident evidently was swept under the rug back then. As I mentioned, I Googled it, Googled both names, Googled Goldsboro, Googled William Shane Jones, Mike Cox. Nothing comes. The only article that I saw was, the one in the Goldsboro News Argus from December the 12th, 1999. And I had to go through the library, pull out the microfilm, go on the little machine, and pull up this and search for the particular day. Now, what I'm also going to do is go back days and years, and I don't think I'm going to have the time to do the years, and find out any other articles relating to this incident. But there is no doubt in my mind now that Mike Cox's version of those events that led to the death and demise of Mr. William Shane Jones are not true and exact. And once again, my number is 919-587-7782. If you have any information regarding this, if you have any information disputing this or even my opinion of the events, feel free to call me, or any other information that you feel is pertinent or relevant to this conversation, because it is appalling to me. It's shocking to me. It's unbelievable to me how this incident that Mike Cox committed only 3 years after being admitted to the force is not a subject, a topic of discussion. There's no way you can tell me that. And once again, it has been alleged. Once again, I don't know that it's true. And once again, I must say rest in peace to Mr. William Shane Jones, and also my condolence to the family. This is not necessarily about him, but it is about the continuous actions and the evident violent actions of Mr. Cox. Once again, there was no backup there. Clearly, it's stated by the article, stated by Sheriff Wander. So only God, Mike Cox, and the deceased William Jones knows what happened that day. But it has been inferred to me that the family did reach a settlement. Once again, people don't reach settlements unless you do something wrong. And to my knowledge, it may have been allegedly that the family did sign something like one of those non-disclosure agreements where you can't talk about the matter anymore, just like many of the national shootings. When the families obtain settlements, they have to sign those agreements saying, okay, you're not going to speak about it anymore. Maybe that's the case, maybe it's not. And if it is the case, I don't blame the family. No amount of money can bring that loved one back. But if they did compensate you for the alleged negligent acts of Mike Cox, then of course you're entitled to that compensation. But nevertheless, I'm once again baffled that this has not come up in the investigation. So I'm going to do some more research about the situation. If anybody once again has any more information, you can call me at 919-587-7782. But this article is very telling because detective refused to give specific details about the incident. Stated that Jones was stopped under the suspicion of DWI, but would not say if alcohol was found at the scene or on his breath, which is very telling because as we see, when they mentioned the record and all those things, they talked about that. So I'm sure if a gun was found, alcohol at the scene, that would have definitely been part of the report to once again make the officer's actions even more justified. Hey, this guy was drunk. Hey, this guy had a gun. Hey, there's no question. But here, this story right here is full of holes, full of appears, full of according to's. You know what I'm saying? There's no absolutes. Definitely an absolute, because anything Mike Cox says now or in the past is definitely under scrutiny and uncredible. I don't know which one to use. Uncredible or incredible. But there you have it, ladies and gentlemen. If you have any questions, call me 919-587-7782. I hope this has been informative as it was to me, because once again, I think I may have heard about something like this a long time ago, but mind you, this is 25 years ago. So 25 years later, I think it is a relevant conversation to the act that we are now investigating. Peace and love, everyone. God bless.